Today we'll be talking with Confucius again. I have a part 1 to this video before this one, so I recommend you go watch that before this one for some background on Confucius. So with that being said, we'll just jump right into this. I have yet to meet the man who is as fond of virtue as he is of beauty and woman. No one is as fond of virtue as they are of beauty, and it is sad, and virtue should be held at the highest um position, highest thing to see, like the highest thing sought after. But in our culture, it is definitely not. Virtue is not something that is placed on a pedestal. It is something that is not even really talked about, but virtue is key. If one sets strict standards for oneself and makes allowances for others when making demands of them, one will stay clear of ill will. Marcus Aurelius says, strict with yourself, tolerant with others. And that's what Confucius is saying right here, too. You want to be strict with yourself, but understand that others will not be like you, maybe, and that you should be tolerant with others. But you still need to be strict with yourself because that is within your control. Others are not within your control, so there's room to be tolerant. There's room to give leeway. But with yourself, with matters in your control, you should be strict. But also understand that you are human and you're bound to make mistakes. If once, what the gentleman seeks, he seeks inside himself. What the small what the small seeks, he seeks in others. The gentleman, the wise man, he seeks inside himself. He seeks for goodness within, not externally. But the small man, the fool, the unwise man, looks for goodness and things in external events. And Confucius, would say the same thing here as Stoics would say a thousand years later. Artful words will ruin one's virtue. The lack of self-restraint in small matters will bring ruin to great plans. The small things do matter in life because how you perform in practice is how you play. How you execute a small thing is how you're going to execute a big thing. It's when you take care in the little details, then you will take care in the big details. So, like practice how you play and, always put your best foot forward. Not to mend one's ways, not to mend one's way when he has erred is to err indeed. When you err and you know you have erred, you should change your ways. You should mend your ways. You should fix yourself or attempt to fix yourself. And if you do that, then I would argue to say that it wasn't even an error. There was the initial error, but, we're human, we're bound to err. But if you can err and then come out better for having erred, then, you failed forward, as John Maxwell would say. Failing forward is not a failure. Failing backwards and not getting up, that is a failure. So when you fail, when you err, make sure it's forward and make sure you're learning from your mistakes. The gentleman worries about the way, not about poverty. The way is like it's an old, I don't know too much about the way, but it's an old ancient Chinese, religion, I think, or just way of life. The way, live like the way, keep on the way. It's a religion essentially. So, he says to worry about that, the way, staying on the way, the right path, and don't worry about poverty. The gentleman is devoted to principle, but not inflexible in small matters. We just talked about small matters being important, but as with everything, there's a balance. And here he's saying, if in a small matter, somebody, errs or you err, you don't need to make it the end of the world. You don't need to make a mountain out of a molehill, essentially. So if somebody, you lend someone $10 and they're supposed to pay you back and they don't, there's no reason to make a mountain out of a molehill. It's just $10. If it happens continuously, then obviously, it's a different story. It's more than $10, and there's more than just money there. There's just keeping your word, and you should probably have a word with them because somebody else wouldn't be as kind as you may be about not getting paid back. But you don't need to make a mountain out of a molehill. Essentially, is what this is saying. To take pleasure in showing off is a dissolute life, and in food and drink is to lose. Yeah, to take pleasure in showing off and to take pleasure in food and drink is a waste of a life, essentially. It's not a good life lived if you're taking pleasure in showing off. And, obviously you can take pleasure in eating, but you shouldn't live to eat, and you shouldn't live to drink. You should drink to live and eat to live. The youth, when the blood and chi are still unsettled, you should guard against the attraction of feminine beauty. Even Confucius, even 2,000 years ago, they knew the how men change their ways for beauty and how they corrupt themselves and don't act as they should in sight of beauty. And he warns us against this, warns specifically the youth, because the youth, obviously is going through a lot of things, and warns the youth against, doing things that they will regret in the future. Seeing what is good, I act as if I was in danger of being left behind. Seeing what is not good, I act as if I was testing hot water. So when you see what is good, you should feel a sense of urgency to act like that as soon as possible so you aren't left behind. But when you seeing what is not good, though, you should act as if you are, quickly, testing hot water, like, no, yeah, that's not good. The days and the months slip by. Time is not on our side. I talked about this in the first video, but it's a profound quote. And yeah, like I said in the first video, if you want to hear more on this, go watch that. But essentially, you may delay, but time will not. It is only the most intelligent and most stupid are not susceptible to change. Change is good. And it's only the wise and the arrogant who aren't harmed by change. And the arrogant aren't harmed because they don't know. But the people who aren't completely fools but aren't completely wise, they fear change. And, change is good. Nothing, you can't, how can you take, Marcus Aurelius has a quote, he's like, how can you take a hot bath without the fire, without that, the wood getting heated up and the water getting hot, you know what I mean? Like, change is in everything. Change is all around us. Change is constantly happening. So do not fear change, because change is good and nothing would happen without it. The gossip monger is the outcast of virtue. Don't gossip. Gossip is not good for you. Gossip is very bad, and gossip kills you, kills your soul. Because as the Bible said, it's not what goes into your body that kills you, your soul, but what comes out, because it comes from the heart. So gossiping and saying ill will on people is a matter of utmost importance because it will harm you metaphysically, I believe. One can perhaps be satisfied with a gentleman who is ready to lay down his life in the face of danger, who does not forget what is right at the sight of gain, and does not forget reverence during a sacrifice, or sorrow while in mourning. When someone's able to see the right thing to do while still being in the moment where there could be immense gain, you know, like seeing a wallet on the ground, and instead of picking it up and running away with it, you pick it up and run to the person who dropped it to get them their wallet back. When you can see the right thing to do, even when the situation is, could be very easily corrupted, then you're doing good. How can a man be said either to have anything or not to have anything who fails to hold on to virtue with all his might, or to believe in the way with all of his heart? You have nothing without virtue, and you have nothing, if you're not holding on to what you believe in, the way, with all your heart. You need to believe, in your principles. You need to uphold your principles. And if you don't, then you're just going to beat yourself up and you won't be happy. You won't be happy not living up to your principles and living up to the things that you know you should be doing. He is full of praise for the good while taking pity on the backward. Praise the good, but don't be hurtful to the bad. Take pity on them, for they are struggling in life and they're struggling in matters of utmost importance. There's no need to belittle these people. There is need of pity and there's need of help, but there's no need of, ill will or gossip. A man can indeed be said to be eager to learn who is conscious in the course of a day of what he lacks, and who never forgets in the course of a month what he has mastered. You should be at the same time realizing that you have so far to go, seeing how far you've come. And with seeing how far you've come should give you motivation and reassurance that the work you're putting in today will be paid back in full, because the work you're putting in today, or the work you put in a month ago, you received fruit for that. So the work you're putting in today, you will receive fruit for too. But you have to be willing to understand that you don't know everything and you do have places to learn, but also at that same time holding that same realization that you've come a long way and you have learned things. Learn widely and be steadfast in your purpose. Inquire earnestly and reflect what is at hand, and there is no need for you to look for benevolence elsewhere. Stay steadfast in your purpose. Figure out your North Star and stick to it. Reflect on the things at hand. Reflect on your day-to-day life. The gentleman perfects his way through learning. Learning is essential. We all know that. When a small man makes a mistake, he is sure to gloss over it. When you make a mistake, you should look into it and you should realize why you erred, why you made a mistake, and how you can prevent it the next time. If you make a mistake and just say, it is what it is, then you don't really care that you made a mistake, and you're probably going to make the same mistake again. So you should look into your mistakes. The gentleman is judged wise by a single word he utters. Equally, he is judged foolish by a single word he utters. That is why one really must be careful of what one says. You do really need to be slow to speak and quick to listen, because, there's a quote by Abraham Lincoln, and it's better to remain silent and thought a fool than to open your mouth and cancel all doubt. It's better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and there's no more doubt remains, because people realize you're a fool. So, if there's also a story of a Spartan at dinner and he's not saying a word, and someone asks him like, "Hey, why aren't you talking? Are you stupid or something?" And he says, like, a stupid person wouldn't be able to keep their mouth shut. So, it takes discipline, and it takes awareness to, not just talk to talk and just not give in to idle chatter and just actually think. Epictetus has a quote. I know this is about Confucius, but I like tying things into other things, because so many philosophies and religions say the same thing over and over again in different ways. And Epictetus says, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. I'll think of it after this video, I'm sure. But that's the last quote I have from Confucius. I'm going to read it one more time, though, to see if it can spark back my what I was about to say about Epictetus. The gentleman is judged wise by a single word he utters. Equally, he is judged foolish by a single word he utters. That is why one really must be careful of what one says. Yeah, I can't remember. Sorry, can't win them all. But yeah, that's gonna do it for all the Confucius quotes that I like the most from the book. You know, like I said in the first video, go get Confucius, the Analytics. Penguin Classic Translation is the one I read, recommend, and hope you all enjoy.